Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, you know, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.
Sponsored by Chumba Casino. No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. 18 plus. Terms and conditions apply.
Cinesmack contains spoilers of the spoiling type. If you don't want your spoilers spoiled, please turn back now. Otherwise, enjoy the show!
Gentlemen, let's broaden our minds. Lawrence?
Ladies and gentlemen! Welcome to the main event! This is Cinesmack! And the winner is...
Hello, Cinesmacketeers, and welcome to About 154 of Cinesmack, the podcast about films by filmmakers. I'm your guest host, who is looking for a towel because my car just hit a water buffalo, Andrew Zumwaltz, owner of Arizona Ink Studios. Joining me tonight is our panel of award-winning judges, and the other host who normally is hosting, who's moonlighting as a judge tonight. So first off, writer, actor, and director, Kyle, why don't we go lay on the bed and I'll fill you in? Fine.
Ooh, what a pickup line. Second best pickup line of these movies would definitely be "You fell for the old banana in the tailpipe."
Second, filmmaker and owner of One Genome Short Productions, Gabriel, the man who wrecked the buffet at the Haro Club this morning.
Well said.
Oh, yes, absolutely. It's me, Dr. Rosenpenis.
Third, filmmaker and owner of Cheshire Moon Films, Tom. If you're so bored, why don't you go to Utah with Alan Haggis?
I'm just burning, doing the neutron dance.
Fourth, and the other host, filmmaker and owner of Southsider Studios, Mike. I ain't on duty, so my dick can be hard. Keeler.
I love your body, Larry.
All right. Well, let's poke the monkey and see what films we're discussing tonight.
Ladies and gentlemen, intrepid investigators and street smart sleuths, welcome to the main event. Tonight, two tales of conspiracy and crime go toe-to-toe. Which one will get the crux of the caper, and which will catch a cold case? In the first corner, from 1985, written by Gregory McDonald and Andrew Bergman, directed by Michael Ritchie, starring Tim Matheson, Dana Wheeler Nicholson, and Chevy Chase. Fletch! In the second corner, from 1984, written by Daniel Petrie Jr. and Danilo Bach, directed by Martin Brest, starring John Ashton, Judge Rhino, and Eddie Murphy. Beverly Hills Cop.
Well, we have two of some of the biggest comedies tonight for the 80s, so I don't want to skimp on anything. Let's get right on into this. and start our first round, which would be writing with Tom.
That'd be me. So, we when we were talking about doing this show a while back, I wasn't really sure that they were on equal footing, but it was kind of interesting going through and watching them again, how similar the stories are, that they're kind of almost like a film noir where they're, it's this unsuspecting detective character has to kind of put the crime together and solve it. And of course, then they get caught up in it. I think that the Beverly Hills Cop, first we'll talk about the crime part of it, that the Beverly Hills crime plot is a lot thinner than the Fletch one. I think the Fletch one has a little bit more twists and turns. And, if you take off the Chevy Chase comedy, you're still a really kind of interesting story there about, drugs on the beach and the cop being involved and everything else. This is also kind of presents kind of a how do you deal with stuff like improvised lines? Who gets the credit for improvised lines? And is that something you put in acting, or is that something you put in writing? But typically with dialogue, it's something we consider for acting. And my wife and I talked about this at length this afternoon, but it really seems that Chevy Chase is better with like physical comedy, and Eddie Murphy, I think, can zip off a line of dialogue just a bit funnier than Chevy Chase. And I think, it's tough because Chevy Chase's lines that he comes up with, the dialogue that he comes up with, and the little jokes really has a feeling of like a first impression, like the first time he's ever done it. And you almost feel like he probably did 20 takes and every single one was different. And this was the funniest one. And Fletch is full of them. And both these movies are highly quotable. But I think Fletch is even a bit more. That said, I think that Eddie Murphy's, he does snark probably better than anyone. But in terms of just kind of improvising lines and stuff, Chevy Chase is, it's hard to beat that. So, I guess going back to like the story side of it, one of the things I came prepared to, by the way, I actually read the Fletch novel because I thought we'd have questions about, because it's from a source material, unlike Beverly Hills Cop. Fletch is actually based on a book. I'm actually a big fan of the Fletch novels, and the Fletch novel, the movie is kind of loosely based on them. He does hop identities in the book. He is putting together kind of piecing together a crime that follows a similar path as that involves Boyd Aviation and the daughter of the owner and her husband. There's stuff that they actually added to the movie. The connection between Alan and the police chief, that's in the movie, but that's not really in the book, which I thought was interesting, because that's one of the interesting things about Fletch, is that twist that the two stories that he's following are actually connected. But the Fletch novel is darker too. There's one scene where one of the girls that are on the beach that he's friends with overdoses in his apartment, and he has to deal with that. So it's a bit darker, but it's still a very funny book. It really seems that if you see the book is just kind of the framework for the movie, and then they kind of let Chevy Chase run with it, you're really kind of okay with it. So anyway, that's about all I have for story for now. Anybody else?
Yeah, so I had known that the Fletch story was based off a book. I didn't know how close it stayed to that. I'm glad you brought that up. I think making it a bit lighter makes sense, considering the comedic tone of most of the movie, although some of the aspects of the crime and things are pretty severe and pretty serious, and they do touch on that a little bit, and I think you get some of Fletch's humanity through that, which I think is a really good choice. Obviously, he's a really wisecracking, making jokes all the time, but you do get the feeling he's trying to do the right thing, and that he cares about the people that he's involved with, not getting them in trouble, not making their life worse, which I think is a good call for a movie like this, to have a likable protagonist. This is a thing I feel like is so 80s. These, I don't want to say convoluted, but these like cops are in on it drug things where it goes all the way to the top. That is, I don't know that is a thing as much. It's very much an 80s thing, which, I mean, it's in so many movies. I like the story in Fletch. I think that it has a very intriguing initial hook where he is grabbed by somebody and basically told, I want you to kill me in exchange for money. Like, that's a really interesting, almost like Agatha Christie type setup to a film. And it was really good at getting me intrigued in what was going to happen. I mean, obviously I thought this is definitely a setup and something's not going to go right, but it's an interesting idea for a hook, and I liked it. The Crime and Story and Beverly Hills Cop, I think, yeah, it's one of those secret drug running things that was so prevalent in the 80s when the war on drugs was so much in the spotlight more than it is these days, I guess. But I think what they did really well was it's really a fish out of water story, but in a way where someone from the wrong side of the tracks, I guess, if you want to put it that way, or doesn't play by the rules, has tools to solve crimes that other people don't have or are unwilling to use. And I think Eddie Murphy pulls that out really effortlessly, as I forgot how just effortlessly charismatic he is. And he pulls that off really well. He has the kind of attitude that's perfect for it. I think Axel Foley is written in that way, and he breathes life into that character, which I think is great, because it could have been much worse and hokier and just any of your standard 80s drug bust, corrupt cops movies. Like, there are a dime a dozen. There are literally thousands of them all over Blockbuster shelves somewhere in the annals of time. But yeah, so I thought that was really good. I don't know, was the bad guy hateable because he was really despicable, or just because he was German and that's like a shortcut for bad? Especially in the 80s when Die Hard was a thing. Although, I don't know. Did this come before Die Hard? I don't know. Anyways, yeah, the plots are a bit thin. I think Fletch is a little more interesting. It has more to deal with it. The stakes are, I guess, a little bit higher because of the personal connection he has with the people. But I think they're both very serviceable stories, and I think they're really what they are vehicles for these actors and casts to kind of shine.
So,
yeah.
Oh, sorry, Gabe, go ahead.
No, I was just about to actually say that I know that Mike has been really excited about this episode and these movies, so I think he should go next.
Yeah, well, I've been going through the writers and looking at what they have done in the past, and I just wanted to say that Phil Alden Robinson, who is uncredited actually, for Fletch, also wrote and directed Field of Dreams. He also wrote and directed Sneakers. I don't know if you guys remember that movie, but I really love that movie.
Love Sneakers.
Sneakers is really good. And
but it's kind of known for having like an all-star cast, isn't it? It has like crazy amounts of actors in it.
Andrew Bergman, who worked on Fletch, also is known for, he actually helped write parts of Blazing Saddles. That's his first credit as far as writing is concerned. And then he did Striptease, wrote Striptease, and a lot of
what a varied career.
Yeah,
he cannot be nailed down.
But yeah, I always like to dig in and see what these guys have done, what they have accomplished in the past, just to kind of give a bigger picture. But Daniel Petrie Jr., who helped write Beverly Hills Cop, also did The Big Easy. He did Beverly Hills Cop 2, a movie that I loved when I was younger, Turner and Hooch, and Beverly Hills
Tom
Cop
Hanks.
3, and then In the Army Now. And we'll stop there because my chest hurts. Daniela Bach did pretty much that. Like there's a lot of TV movies in his wheelhouse, but I agree. I think the whole war on drugs initiative really made people think, oh well, hey, we can have these cops fighting, or we can have dirty cops that are selling the drugs. And I agree, it's very much, it's overused in the 80s, but God, you can't watch an action movie or an action comedy movie from the 80s without something to do with drugs. Like it was on everyone's mind and they threw it out there. But I like to think in my own weird head that Lethal Weapon, Beverly Hills Cop, Fletch, Die Hard, all that happened in the same universe. Like they're all in the same LA universe.
Oh,
Don't all.
It seems to me that we can have an Expendables with all of these guys.
Exactly,
on a case.
right?
Yeah.
It would be awesome.
Copyright that right now.
Copyright Mikey.
Because I know there's some bigwigs listening to this podcast right now that are going to take that idea.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, since we said that we were going to be doing this, they've actually said they're making another Beverly Hills Cop movie. I just want to point.
I'm not saying we're responsible, but
right.
Streamers.
The trailer is out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Streamers. I just want to let you know that we came up with it first, and that is actually going to happen with the whole worlds colliding, and so yeah, you heard it here first. Gabe.
Great. Yeah. I don't know that I have a heck of a lot extra to add to the writing category, because I do think that both of these movies ended up kind of being vehicles for the stars, kind of being, kind of a spotlight for these actors. And so I think more of what I have to say about it is probably going to end up in the acting category. They did feel very, they did have a very 80s feel. I was actually a little bit surprised at how dark at times Beverly Hills Cop was. It's one of those things, and we'll probably talk about it later, where it's a little bit dangerous sometimes to revisit some of your favorite old films. When we put these on the schedule and I knew we were going to watch these, I was really excited about seeing Fletch again, because I think, my recollection was that Fletch is so freaking hilarious and Chevy Chase is so great in it and that kind of thing, that it's like, this is going to be so much fun. And it was, but you really have to be careful about revisiting these things, I think. And you notice things that you didn't notice previously. And I think one of the things that I noticed about Beverly Hills Cop was it was a little bit darker than I remembered it being. I thought it was a little bit more lighthearted. And Fletch maybe wasn't quite as, I don't know, as intricate as I remember it being either. But I enjoyed them both. And I think most of my comments will probably come more in the acting category than the writing. So I don't have a lot to add in the writing category.
Just real quick, since we were talking about 80s movies, was it the only time that we saw cops cut open bags of drugs and taste them with their fingers? Because that's such an 80s thing. And then in the 90s, it was drug dealers who did it. But in the 80s, cops would do it all the time, and they could immediately tell what kind of drug it was and how good it was.
That's definitely a trope, right?
Which makes me think,
why would cops know that?
Did cops do in the 80s that they can identify them and by taste tell how good they are?
Right.
just a weird thing. It's such a of the time thing.
It really puts another meaning on the DARE program, doesn't it?
They are dared, to go out, and they can't take it back to the lab for testing. They have to test it right there.
In the
Usually
field,
with a switchblade knife.
Field testing.
And they'll lick their finger, and then, oh yeah, this is good Colombian shit. Like, you're a cop. How do you know that?
Do they teach that at the academy?
Yeah, do you have to taste every drug? Is it like a thing, like you're like a field test?
Yeah.
You don't
There's
need
some
a canine.
fentanyl.
You can tell. Yeah. What if it's poison?
Right.
No one ever worries about that. I worry about these cops.
And now they have, field testing with little droplets of chemicals to figure it out instead of their mouths.
How far?
Probably less accurate.
Definitely less accurate.
That'd be a fun reality show. 80s cop versus drug test. Who can identify that it is faster?
Copyright that.
This tastes like anthrax. Oh, you're right, but you lose.
All right. Nothing else? That's it? You guys got your bout? You're writing?
Yeah, I'm good.
Yeah,
I'm good.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's put it to the Mr. Voties. Tom.
You can call me Tommy. That's cool. Actually, that's what people called me in the 80s, so that's perfect. Oh. Yeah, I'll go Fletch.
They just called me shithead.
Shit.
Gabe.
I'm going to go with Fletch as well.
Okay. And Kyle.
Boy, yeah, I really like the story of Beverly Hills Cop, but it's pretty thin and not as interesting as Fletch. So Fletch for me.
Okay. And Mike.
I'm sorry, Eddie, but I got to go with Fletch as far as the writing is concerned.
As far as writing is concerned. All right. All right. So for Fletch, this actually hits up a little bit of what Mike was talking about. Michael Ritchie actually spoke about the number of writers that were brought in on this film in a 2000 DGA interview. And I quote, "As it happened, when Andrew Bergman's screenplay finally got the go, he was busy directing a project that he ultimately got fired from. It was a sequel to The In-Laws. So the two writers that came on board to contribute a great deal to Fletch actually were Jerry Belson, my longtime cohort from Smile, and Phil Alden Robinson, who became a successful writer and director and also did some more work for me on Wildcats. So with two good helping hands, we proceeded until such time as Andrew Bergman got fired from his movie because his picture was going down the tubes and he wanted his directing debut to be a little more smashing than that. So I was able to bring him back. He was in New York, but I was able to, by telephone and long distance and fax machine, to get him involved again in the process of doing scenes for Fletch," unquote.
Fax machine. Think about that.
You're right. So, also you guys touched on this as well. So for Beverly Hills Cop, the principal photography began on May 7th, 1984, with locations in Detroit and Los Angeles. The script was completed every single day filming began and was consistently being revised. And when they got stuck on a scene, Eddie Murphy would improvise dialogue or just create a new scene on the fly. Filming wrapped on July 26, 1984, after 11 weeks or 80 days of filming. Now,
wow.
That's how they did Casablanca, so that's cool.
Originally, the movie was actually written. Now, this is Beverly Hills Cop. The movie was originally written for Sylvester Stallone, with the character of Michael Tandino as his brother and Jenny Summers as his love interest.
Huh.
Very different movie.
Yeah, that would have been a very
different movie.
We wouldn't be talking
like
about
Rambo.
it, that's for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Well, there we goes. Let's move on to acting. I believe that is good. Gabe.
I don't know how to feel about that.
Here it is.
Oh, my head hurts. Yeah, I do feel like I said previously, I do feel like both of these movies to a certain degree were like vehicles for these actors. And they both, I'm sure, show off their improvisational skills. And I enjoy them both quite a bit. Chevy Chase in Fletch, I think is fantastic. When he's such a snarky smartass, and I love it. He plays that character well, and maybe because he's not really acting, I don't know. Maybe it comes naturally, but he's so good at it, and it's so fun to watch on screen. And when he puts on those disguises, he's got the fake teeth, or whatever. He puts on these disguises, and it's just hilarious. And I think it was Tom that mentioned that, like, the main difference here might be between physical acting and more improvisational kind of dialogue kind of acting. And Chevy Chase is really just a master of the whole physical acting thing. He always has been, from when he was on Saturday Night Live and in any of his other movies. It's always this kind of physical thing with him, where he's banging his head and getting his head caught in the lamp and those kinds of things, and he's just so good at it, and it's so fun to watch. And Eddie Murphy, I was actually really surprised with Eddie Murphy in Beverly Hills Cop. Again, it's something that I revisited after many years, and I didn't, my recollection of it was different. But he actually he was really good with what I assumed were improvised lines. But I also thought he was kind of sincere and heartwarming at times. Like, he was a really likable character at times. There were times when he would kind of drop his, like, defensive, smart-ass kind of attitude, and he was very genuine. And I really liked that. I was like, oh yeah, that's really kind of, that's good for a main character, because he becomes really likable at that point, and you kind of feel, he kind of makes you feel as a viewer like his, the other cops start to feel about him. They don't like him at first, but then they start to warm up to him, and that's kind of the way I felt when I was watching the movie. And I think those are the main performances. I don't know if there's any, I don't know, maybe you guys have some other ideas on, like, other characters in the movies. It was kind of interesting to see Gina Davis. I mean, she was really cute and really fun, but she didn't have a very big part. I don't know. I don't know if there are any side characters that really, really stood out to me necessarily. But I do think they were vehicles, and very successful ones, for their main actors, Chevy Chase and Eddie Murphy.
I really liked Gilbert R. Hill as Inspector Todd a lot. I don't know why. It's the police chief that yells and cusses a lot. And it's just such a great trope that it's like, okay, I kind of like this guy, no bullshit type of guy, where you take the other police chief who, talks behind closed doors and is very well spoken and doesn't cuss, the Beverly Hills Cop police chief, but or Beverly Hills police chief, I should say. Those are the ones that, and I like John Ashton a lot, and I just liked his performance, just as someone that's just trying to not get in trouble, and he's got this young rookie in Judge Reinhold, and I think Judge Reinhold brings a lot of charisma along with him. in that part. Like, you just really buy he's this rookie cop who doesn't really know what he's doing. And I enjoyed those characters. I mean, it was seeing Paul Reiser in it, and I'm trying to last year sometime I went on a binge and I watched all 3 movies, which I wouldn't recommend watching the third one. But he has a more prevalent role in the second one, so I'm trying to keep that out of my head. But you also have to talk about Branson Pinchot as Serge, and that's one of Kyle's favorite childhood actors from Perfect Strangers. But you've got Joe Don Baker. I mean, he's known for Walking Tall. He's a very big and imposing guy.
Menacing.
Right. And I thought, who played, sorry, I got to look it up. Oh, Richard Libertini played Fletch's boss. And I thought they had a very good back and forth. I thought they worked well together. And let's not forget the greatest airline pilot ever, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Right. Yeah, I just want to mention one other thing here that's really important to me, that Emmett Walsh and William Sanderson appear in Fletch, and they also appear together. Well, maybe not together in the same scenes, but they also appear in one of my favorite movies that I mentioned pretty much every show, Blade Runner.
Oh, what? You like Blade Runner?
I do like Blade Runner.
I thought you were talking about...
So, that's really important to me. That
Wait, 42 minutes.
I thought you were talking about Deja Vu.
Are you counting? Are you counting? Like, how far? Yeah, what is the soonest?
I lost $5.
Damn it.
I thought you were going to use it for your intro. I think Gabe roll call. You'd be like, I like Blade Runner.
I like Blade Runner.
Just
every
next
episode
month.
From now on.
Yeah, next month.
Hey, I know you. You're Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
My dad says.
Gabe, we have to enroll you in BRA. Blade
Runner Anonymous.
Yes.
That's going to be hard to do. It's going to be hard.
He's not anonymous is the problem.
Yeah. It's out there.
Everybody knows.
Oh, God. Yeah. And you got
Interventure.
George Wendt.
Yeah.
Given very little to do.
Right.
Sit on the beach and look sad.
Right. That's kind of a good gig, though. I mean, he's kind of typecast just to sit on something.
Funny if you can get it. So, I agree with a lot of what you said about the actors. The bosses are particularly good. I felt like the Inspector Todd might have been like almost like Arlie Ermy stunt casting. Like, did they really just get a police officer and he's not an actor? Because he's just like really good at chewing ass, but he doesn't seem to be great like on camera. I agree with Gabe quite a bit. I know this is a Gria smack, but Eddie Murphy plays those quiet and more serious moments really well. I think the difference between he and Chevy Chase is you can kind of take Eddie Murphy more seriously as the action-oriented action star sort of detective, whereas Fletch is sort of the wits and by the seat of his pants kind of guy, which is funny because Chevy Chase is like 6'4", and should be like much more imposing than Eddie Murphy, but Eddie Murphy's got all that swag and bravado that goes a long way. And I had forgotten, I haven't watched an Eddie Murphy movie in a very long time because when he entered his Dr. Dolittle clumps phase, like I was kind of out. That wasn't my thing. But in the 80s, he had a very effortless charisma that was just amazing. He could play anything, was always interesting, was always funny and quick. You believed him as a badass in parts. You believed he could pick up the ladies. You believed everything. So that was great. Also, his laugh is iconic, if not a little overdone at times in some movies that he's in. Judge Reinhold and whoever played Taggart, I love Taggart. He's just like a brown noser who's like, man, I'm like 10 years from retirement. Don't fuck this up. This is such a cushy gig. The The villains, I think, were, they were pretty good in Fletch. I think they were worse in Beverly Hills Cop. I said, yeah, both bosses. Gina Davis being like a little spark plug. Like, I don't know. That's not the Gina Davis I'm used to, I guess. I'm used to like her being older and more surly sometimes, but it was fun. Interesting to see her there in a role that I didn't expect. Completely did not know she was in the movie. So let's get to the main actors. Love Eddie Murphy as Axel Foley. Don't think anyone else would have been as good. Sylvester Stallone would have been a travesty. But, not worse than Bad Boys if it had gone off as originally planned. I think I never gave enough credit to Chevy Chase's physical acting, because my real first exposure to him was as Clark Griswold, which is very much more what he says, how he says it, and also his facial expressions, which I think are much more muted in Fletch in some respects, but his physical comedy is at a 10, and he is just incredibly talented. And for such a large man, it's pretty crazy how limber and kind of effortless he is at pulling off the physical comedy. And I find that a lot of his best stuff is the little things he does with his hands. Like if he has something dirty on his hands, if he has something stuck to his fingers, if he's screwing around with his fake teeth, if he's trying to put on some prosthetic, like he is great at that little hidden action, almost like sleight of hand stuff. I don't know anyone whose timing is as good at that as him. So I give him a lot of credit. Yeah, Fletch was fun. He's a fun character. I can see why he lived on. There's a lot to it. Sometimes it felt like Chevy Chase was pushing a bit to make things funny, and it didn't feel it felt more actory, if that makes sense, that it was a real performative. But I guess that was kind of his shtick. He was undercover and trying to inhabit someone else. Whereas I thought Eddie Murphy came off pretty like he was not acting. It did not seem like acting to me, which I think is, what you want out of an actor, right? You don't want to pull the curtain back and bring people out of your movie by thinking like, oh, this is Eddie Murphy doing Eddie Murphy stuff. And sometimes I've criticized Chevy Chase for doing Chevy Chase things. Like he has X amount of jokes. He's just really good at them. But I'm starting to come around to the fact that he's really good at a lot of different aspects of comedy, and his physical comedy is on display here, and it's something that I very much underestimated.
Yeah, I mean, like I said in the first round, I think Chevy's physical comedy is really polished. And one of the things, so my kids hadn't seen this, and they were wondering like an example of something they'd seen. They'd seen Christmas Vacation when he walks in and he's got the cat wrapped up in the box, and the cat starts shaking, and the cat's wrapped up in the Christmas present. And I had to explain to them that there's no cat in the box. Like that is Chevy Chase being able to act like there's a cat in the box, and he's able to move it. And he just, it's weird because you just have to have like a grasp almost of physics and, just being able to do really good prop comedy like that. I love Fletch, and I've literally seen it dozens of times. I'm wearing my Fletch Boyd Aviation t-shirt today. But I was really surprised at how much I really liked Beverly Hills Cop. It just kind of took me by surprise by how much I enjoyed it, and how much, the parts of the movie where Eddie Murphy gets serious when he's, dealing with, the death of his friend, and letting his, their third friend, letting Jenny know about what happened. I mean, there's these real serious moments that really, I think, gives the whole movie a lot more weight, and he doesn't get enough credit for. I do like that there's no romantic interest in Beverly Hills Cop. I think that would have been an easy trope to slide into. So credit for not doing that and being able to just kind of keep the focus on the story. And that seemed kind of like out of step with what movies usually did in the 80s. And that's kind of commendable too. Yeah,
he only had a platonic relationship with his old friend, which was very interesting and a bold choice, considering that's such an easy way to pad runtime and like engage the audiences.
Right.
But he really seemed sincere, and like he cared about these things, and he cared about being a good cop and catching the people who were responsible. And I think that's also a strength of Fletch, is even though he is kind of a jackass and he's kind of rude to people and he's obviously grifting to some extent, you also get the feeling that he's not a bad guy and he wants to do the right thing. Mm-hmm. Even when the right thing is very difficult, like, yeah. So it's interesting because you really do feel like he cares about the people involved in his story, and he's not trying to get them in trouble. He is trying to protect them, and he's trying to do that by his wits alone. You know, he doesn't have a gun or a badge or any authority. So I think they both did a really good job of portraying like commendable, I guess, heroes in some way. You don't hate them, you root for them to win. And I think that's really important when you want someone to buy into a movie where, you know, you basically have a cop or an investigator that's like a hero. If they're unlikable or you don't want to root for them, that's like a death sentence.
Yep.
Yeah, it's interesting how these two movies kind of dovetail with that fish out of water man searching for justice. I thought that, you know, that's why we picked them, because we're fucking good at picking pairs of movies.
I never would have thought I could compare a Chevy Chase performance to a Eddie Murphy performance, and them to give such similar like notes and tones in their characters. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
You think that's bad? Wait until we talk about these two directors. I'm sorry, this next round is going to be a challenge. It's going to be a challenge.
All right. Well, before we get to that, you guys got, did you say your piece? You got your magic out? No?
Yeah. Magic's out. Oh my God.
All right. Yep. Let's put let's save it. Save it, Mike.
Well, just making sure.
Yeah, well. All right. Acting. Gabe.
I'm going to go with Chevy Chase and my Blade Runner buddies in Fletch.
Okay. Kyle.
Give me Eddie Murphy, Beverly Hills Cop.
All right. And Mike?
I'm going with Beverly Hills Cop.
And Tom?
Okay, it's like razor thin. I'm going back and forth, and it's the supporting cast. So I'm giving it Beverly Hills Cop, and Bronson Pinchot gets all the credit. He puts it over the top.
I forgot.
I
just forgot how good that was.
Yeah. He's one of my favorite audiobook guys now, too. He's quite good.
So
just want him to read all my Perfect Strangers fan fiction.
He might do it.
Yeah, he might.
If he ever comes to like a Comic-Con or something, I will pay whatever the price is.
Balky. So Tom, this is a little bit of trivia to talk about your wonderful novels, actually, with acting. Yes. So Gregory MacDonald is the author of the Fletch novels, and he had 100% casting approval over the film. And he originally rejected, are you ready? Mick Jagger and Burt Reynolds before deciding on Chevy Chase for the lead in Fletch. The award banquet that Fletch interrupts is in honor of Fred Dorfman. And if everyone knows, Fred Dorfman was the name of Kent Flounder Dorfman's brother in National Lampoon's Animal House, which was originally going to feature Chevy Chase as Eric Otter Stratton. But Otter was actually played by Tim Matheson, who actually plays Alan Stanwyck in Fletch.
Well done.
Wow. We need one of those. We need one of those boards where you put up the pictures and you connect them with like red yarn. We need we need to diagram that.
So we've talked a lot about Eddie Murphy and his improvisation. So Beverly Hills Cop. Well, first of all, with Beverly Hills Cop, Eddie Murphy took this role because he actually backed out of doing Ghostbusters so he could do Beverly Hills Cop, because he was originally cast in Ghostbusters. But Eddie Murphy, John Ashton, and Judge Reinhold improvised a lot of the lines, just like we all knew, we've all talked about. Literally hundreds of takes were ruined by cast members, actors, or the director laughing during the shooting. During the Super Cops monologue, Ashton is pitching his face really hard and looking down in apparent frustration, but he's actually laughing. Reinhold put his hand in his pocket and pinched his thigh really, really hard to try to prevent himself from laughing during that scene.
I can believe
Okay,
it.
so this is a call out to the Criterion Collection people. We need this.
Yes.
We need a 4K Blu-ray of Beverly Hills Cop with all of these deleted scenes.
Yes.
All of these outtakes.
Absolutely.
I want a whole disc of just outtakes from Beverly Hills Cop.
All the scenes that had to be cut because of laughing. All right. Well, here we go. We're moving on to the fancy round of the control and the magic that goes on set, known as directing. Kyle, take us away.
Wow, what a high energy entrance. Let me bring that right down. This is a tale of two directors with very different careers. Michael Ritchie, director of Fletch, actually directed Eddie Murphy earlier in his career in, or was it after Fletch? It was after Fletch in The Golden Child. He also did the sequel, Fletch Lives. He is responsible for The Amazing Cops and Robersons.
Oh, God.
The Scout with Academy Award-winning actor Brendan Fraser. He did a lot of comedies in the 80s and 90s. He did Wildcats, Student Bodies, Bad News Bears in the late 70s.
Oh, Bad News Bears is so good.
Yeah, it is fun. But another thing about that movie is it's made very much by the cast, and Walter Matthau in that movie is a lot of it. On the other hand, Martin Brest had a very different career. He directed one episode of Saturday Night Live. He did Beverly Hills Cop. He did Midnight Run. He did Scent of a Woman. Then Meet Joe Black. And then his last project I could find was Gigli, the doomed Benifer movie, which holds a 2.6 on IMDb.
Oh, my God.
This comes after the first... Okay, so the four movies that led into Gigli: Beverly Hills Cop, 7.4, Midnight Run, 7.5, Set of a Woman, 8.0, Meet Joe Black, 7.2, Gigli, 2.6. This guy could have had an all-time 5-movie run, and instead he cratered at the end. I don't know if he's still alive.
He is still alive.
I don't see a death date on IMDb, but Gigli effectively killed his career.
Yes.
He has not directed anything in 20 years.
He was nominated for an Oscar.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, Son of a Woman is come on. Like, these are critically acclaimed good movies. But, man, his ability to wrangle and get what he wanted out of Eddie Murphy and all the other actors, and I don't know how much of that is him, right? I imagine some of this is just playing goalie. You have to keep things from getting so far off track that you can't get your scene shot. So I give him credit for that. It's probably the case for Michael Ritchie, too, when you just tell Chevy Chase to go. Like, you have to then kind of herd cats for a while and make sure you get the stuff you actually need. Because otherwise you're just going to be there all afternoon laughing and you're going to realize you don't have actually anything in the can. I think Beverly Hills Cop had a little more movement to the camera, definitely had some really good chase scenes, some really good action set pieces, although they suffer from the 1980s, like, bad guys have machine guns, good guys have little pistols, but somehow pistols win.
Right.
Right, yeah. I think in particular the strip club scene is pretty funny. the way it's lit and shot, and Judge Reinhold's facial expressions are just great. I know that's a bit more acting, but some of that is you have to get that out of the actors. And I think they did a great job. Framed up a lot of nice 2 and 3 shots, had a lot of good lighting, and the serious scenes were serious. I mean, he kept everything on pace and on track and created a movie with a nice tone. Fletch, a little more all over the place because I think it's just a little bit more chaotic. A well-shot movie. I don't think it has as much movement or be as dynamic, but still, I mean, a well-shot movie, well-directed. I think, I don't know how much you want to give them credit for, like, set selection or set dressing, what they choose to shoot, but they got a lot of good coverage that made you feel like in the reality of the places where the beach looks so run down and depressing, and it wasn't a sunny day. Like I mean, they played that perfectly. The house that whoever Otter played, lives in. I mean, in the country club, like, they're so stereotypical and well shot out that way. We never mentioned the Spanish waiter. I thought that was great. Or Mr. Underhill, who just has one note, and that is to scream. And they're just like, just be an angry old man. And he's like, that's what I was born for. But yeah, so I give Beverly Hills Cop a lot more credit for some more color, some more movement, a little more action. It is more brutal. Gabe is right about that. I mean, you got Mike Ehrmantraut from Breaking Bad, like. Mm-hmm. The movie kind of starts with some dude getting executed, which is such a weird way to start your comedy movie. But I got to give both these movies credit. We'll talk about it more in overall. I love when action pieces, and in the case of Beverly Hills Cop, action heroes have a theme song. It is such a lost art, and man, I kind of wish it would come back.
Yeah, and I think that's the elephant in the room that we haven't talked about yet, and which I'm sure we'll hit in the next round, is the music. As far as directing for these two, I don't feel like when I was watching these, I don't think directing came to mind to me very much. I'm not sure that any of the cinematography is all that spectacular. I'm not sure that the editing or the pacing is really all that great. I have to give, was it Martin Brest who did Beverly Hills Cop? Is that right? Do I have the right one?
You are correct.
I have to give him credit for kind of doing a Blues Brothers and crashing a bunch of vehicles. I have to say that some of those scenes where they were, they didn't do CG with all the car crashes and that stuff. They were smashing the shit out of some cars in that movie, and it was pretty fun to watch.
Yeah.
Where the truck was, the semi with the cigarettes on it was smashing through all the cars and all that kind of stuff. That was pretty fun to watch. And we got a little bit of stunt work there too. Somebody, I assume it wasn't actually Eddie Murphy, hanging on the side of that truck, and and then all the cop cars all smashing up. That totally made me think of Blues Brothers, where they they destroy all those cars. It's my understanding. I had a friend who lived in Chicago years ago, and he said there was a place just off one of the interstates, one of the highways or whatever, where all those wrecked cop cars were. And so you would drive by there and you would see all of those cars piled up in the junkyard, which I thought was kind of interesting too. Yeah, but really, to me, I think they were competently directed, and they told their stories, and they were fun, and they really did do a great job of handling, a couple of superstars with improvisational skills. It could be really hard to put something like that together if you don't really have stuff that can connect. It'd be hard to do. But I'm not sure that directing is something that stood out to me in either of these two.
Yeah, agree with you, Gabe. Like the directing, I wasn't like, oh, that was a great choice, or I wonder how they did that. It was, and I'm not saying that like I could do better by any stretch of the means, but it just felt basic on a lot of the stuff.
It was functional.
Yes.
It was, yeah.
It did not hinder the story.
It
It did
competent.
not take you out of the story. It just, I mean, it told the story, which is what everyone should want to, you want to do when you are directing a film. But yeah, I mean, Kyle said one of my talking points, which was not showing the beach all beautiful and sunshiny, and I thought that was a great feel for Fletch. I did like how Michael Ritchie would show his thinking, like when they would show him looking at things and what he was going to do, kind of telegraphing it to the audience. But yeah, like nothing really like stood out that I can think of right off the top of my head.
For me, it was because, so I mean, I watched Fletch first, and then I watched Beverly Hills Cop. And so I'm looking, because we're going to be talking about this, like, oh, I need to talk for 30 seconds about directing. So I'm looking for stuff that I can be like, oh, that's a good thing. Like the car chase in Fletch. Like, oh, I mean, that was competently directed, and, you have a good idea of what's going on, and there's some, stunt work in it.
Yeah,
and then
that's true.
I get to turn on Beverly Hills Cop, and we're, 4 minutes into it, and they have a car chase, and their car chase is better. But it's, it seems like everything that I saw in Fletch that Beverly Hills Cop seemed to always match it. They have a, like you said, a very talented improvisational actor that they kind of have to keep reined in so that they can keep the story going. And they both did a good job of, making sure that the crime makes sense. I mean, that's something that we never talked about. At no point usually with these 80s movies, there's always that big glaring question where you're just like, wait a second, why were the bad guys doing this? But that never happens in these two movies. The stories are solid and really well told, and the stunt work is great. That's why I was kind of nervous about this category. Like you guys said, they're competently directed. But yeah, if you do look at Martin Brest does seem like he has a little bit more, weight to his resume, than Ritchie. But I mean, they're both very nicely directed movies.
Well, yeah. I mean, you look at Ritchie's. I mean, he goes clear back to 1955, clear up to 2000, and I think he went for the quantity of directing, which, I mean, he was working, that's for sure, where Martin Brest was working up, unfortunately, until Geely. But, like you said, he has a lot of weight, especially in Meet Joe Black's Son of a Woman. And I absolutely love Midnight Run. I think that's a great film. But, yeah, it seemed like he was more selective, maybe, or just didn't get the calls, which is kind of surprising, especially after doing Beverly Hills Cop and Midnight Run, two really well done films, and 4 years in between. But yeah, there was something else I was going to mention as far as the directing was concerned, but it's gone now, so it probably doesn't matter.
I just wanted to point out two things. One's kind of a trope of the 80s, and another one is I always think it's more impressive when they do car crashes and smash and ups and chases in older movies, because you're not using like sports tuned cars. Usually you're using these big boats and Crown Vics, and like it just seems so much more dangerous and like weighty. It's obviously slower and not as, I don't know if you'd call it exciting. It's not as edited and flashy.
Yeah, it's not as hyper.
But it is like, Jesus, this looks legitimately dangerous, these giant steel cars. And then another trope from the 80s you reminded me of.
Tanks.
Yeah, right. by talking about the bad guy, bearer bonds.
Yes.
What a thing that was only from the 80s and no longer. Do they still exist?
They actually don't.
Bearer bonds and bonded warehouses. I think those are the things from the 80s and 90s. I'm not sure they still exist. It's kind of funny.
Mike getting on the.
Yep, I had to look it up. Sorry, I was correct. Today, bearer bonds are nearly extinct in the U.S. and other advanced countries, largely because the lack of registration invites theft, money laundering, tax evasion, terrorism financing, and other nefarious behaviors. So
yeah, because
the
payable
80s,
to the bearer.
Weird.
There is no proof.
Correct.
Of who bought it or for how much or where. It's just payable to the bearer.
Correct.
Which is kind of crazy that the government ever was like, yeah,
this
here's
is a good
basically
idea.
$1 billion check that you can lose and we can't do anything about.
Right.
Kind of crazy. Yeah, funny.
Yeah, absolutely
right.
insane.
Well, it sounds like we struggled to get through directing.
Oh, hold on. I just thought about another thread I can pull. Tenet is basically Beverly Hills Cop because they both involve warehouses where rich people steal things they don't want to go through customs.
Wow.
And other than the time stuff, it's basically the same.
Fair enough.
Interesting.
Ponder that one.
Fair enough.
Put that in your pipe and smoke it.
That'll be my end of semester essay. How Christopher Nolan ripped off Beverly Hills Cop.
His thesis.
Oh, well, just real quick. I mean, we're talking about it, and the look of both of these films, like the grittiness, right? I know Gabe mentioned something about how dark, but also dark in certain places. And I'm not talking about what happens in it, but just from the film stock. And I don't know why, but I think that's what draws me to the 80s films, and just that I look back on them as, oh, this was great. It's got that texture, right? As you're watching it, it's not this perfectly clear image that we are so used to now. Like there's that film grain, and there's a little bit of dirtiness to the look. And I'm not saying they're out of focus or anything like that, but it's just the look that film stock gives you. And that's one thing that I loved about watching both of these films, was it just kind of took me back.
It makes you feel like you're watching real life instead of
a
digital movie of something. You're watching it through the lens of the camera. It's a different experience by far.
Yes.
Yeah, actually, I've actually felt a little bit kind of. I agree with you, Andrew, but I've also felt like it's kind of the opposite, that film and film grain makes it seem more fantasy because it's not quite as clear as real life. You know, when you shoot digitally and you have these like really high resolution, almost perfect images, they seem almost too realistic. I remember one time reading an article about they were working on stuff that was beyond, and it's so funny now to think about. They were working on stuff that was beyond HD, beyond 1K or whatever, and they were like, I don't think people can handle it. I think it's going to create problems for people. It's going to make them sick because the resolution is going to be too high. It's going to be too realistic. It's not. The people are not going to be able to handle this. And I've always felt like that film grain gives it kind of more of a fantasy feel than the newer digital stuff that we get now.
Yep.
I was just that's just my personal feeling on it. And it's so weird because I have kind of mixed feelings on it too, because it's like certain directors are like, I'm shooting only on film, and you just kind of want to smack them. And it's like, get off your high horse and just use newer technology that's easier and cheaper and faster and all this kind of stuff. And but there's also a part of me that's like, we're missing something with that look and that film grain and that grittiness that Mike mentioned. And
I guess I look at that part of it as, in the instance, I think you are correct. Our lives are clear, crystal, no grain, no, extra stuff. But when you remember something and you remember those moments, is it ever in HD in a sense? It's always,
Not my memory.
Right. But it's always has, some kind of connotation that your brain has put around those memories, and it feels more like the film.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I've always looked at it that way, as the instance is an HD red camera shooting a movie. But when I remember it, it's more like I shot it on
Super
film.
Well, mine's more of a sepia tone when I think of things. I should probably go see a doctor.
Yeah,
Turns out
mine is
all
definitely
my
black and
memories are
white.
Black and white, Mike.
All my memories are like the Zapruder film.
Well, it sounds like we're basically good here, but both directors get gold stars. That's what I kind of heard out of this round.
Silver stars.
Silver star. Oh, we're silver stars. Okay, cool. All right, well, let's start it off. Kyle.
Just for color, movement, a little more action and setting, I'm going to go for Beverly Hills Cop.
All right. And Mike.
Ooh, man. I'm going to go with better car chase scene and Beverly Hills Cop.
And Tom.
I'm going to go Fletch with being able to just keep a halfway complicated crime story in order and having it make sense.
And not giving it away totally. Yeah.
Not giving it away totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even if you read the book, you don't see the twist coming.
Gabe.
Well, I'm gonna go with Beverly Hills Cop for crashing more cars for real. I thought that was pretty cool.
You want to come over and play Hot Wheels later, Gabe?
Yeah. You know what I really, really want, and I cannot justify, is one of those slot racer tracks.
Oh my god.
I had one of those when I was a kid. I loved it. I thought it was the coolest thing. And I want one, but where the hell would I put it? And I can't justify it. I don't have any kids. But if you get one, Mike, I'll come over and race you.
You don't need to have
Mike has a
kids
kid.
to be a kid. You can be a kid forever, Gabe.
Yes.
It's okay.
Yes.
Well, like,
Yeah,
can have it.
and if you don't have kids, you have more money to spend on that.
On that.
on the
Yeah,
kid
that is
stuff.
correct.
Yeah, uh-huh. Yes,
This is true. Yeah. I think there's a difference, though, between being a kid forever and just being completely immature. I'm definitely the latter.
Says
Cool.
Mr. Poo Poo Head.
This podcast just got super deep. All right.
One of us has a basement full of robots, right? So just be careful.
And some of us have large collections of Darth Vader figurines and toys and anything that has Darth Vader on it. Including an entire costume that was built by said person.
Yeah, so take that,
Costume
Mr. Pee
built
Pee
by
Poo
Darth
Poo
Vader?
Head.
By Darth. Yeah, I don't. I'm not sensing anything wrong with these things. I don't.
Okay,
It's all cool.
for Fletch, we'll talk a little bit about the directors. Michael Ritchie started his career as an assistant producer in television in the early 1960s. He made his very first feature film debut as a director with Downhill Racer in 1969, and he was actually hired by Robert Redford to do that. He continued to do a bunch of sports films, as we had discussed, with his greatest box office success being The Bad News Bears and Semi-Tough in 76 and 77, in order there. He took a humorous swipe with a far less commercial success at beauty pageants with the underrated Smile in 1975. But he did figure out and adopted an effective semi-documentary approach to his directing style. And his work obviously became more mainstream in the 80s, and which includes Fletch Lives, and The Couch Trip, were his three of some of his top ones. So, Martin Brest for Beverly Hills Cop. This is probably one of the most interesting trivia that I have found about any director, and I think it is absolutely fantastic. So, Martin Brest actually flipped a quarter to decide whether or not he wanted to direct Beverly Hills Cop or not. In the wake of Beverly Hills' enormous success, he actually took that quarter and framed it and hung it on a wall in his office because it came up heads to tell him to direct this movie. I think that's freaking amazing.
That's actually pretty awesome.
Flipped a coin cool. And he's like, yeah, okay, I guess I will direct this, whatever.
And I've heard that if you have a hard decision to make, you should flip a coin because it causes you to make the decision in an instant. It's more likely to be like what you really want.
Right, because if it's not what you think you should do, you fight it and you're like, nah, that's wrong.
Yeah.
That's what I did.
That's 2 out of 3.
That's what I did to
start saying
yes, ask Amanda to marry me and to have a kid, and that's what I did. Yep.
Did she flip a coin or did you?
$375 in quarters pinned to his wall right now.
I have some vacation time I have to burn up. I should use a day where I flip a coin for everything I do.
Yeah. There's actually we're going way off topic, but there's a thing out there where people roll dice, because they know the statistics of whatever numbers they're going to get. They roll dice for 20s? Their decisions. Two sixes.
Do they do like D20s?
No, just 2 6-siders. Just like you're in Vegas, rolling craps.
Mm-hmm. You know what, Kyle? It sounds like a really good short movie to watch.
Yeah.
Of some guy flipping
you know what? If I do it, I will document it and I will share it.
That'd be a great documentary. It'd be a great streaming channel. I bet you get a bunch of followers every day.
Yeah. Oh, boy, I don't know if I could go live for a whole day. I would definitely say something that would get me in deep trouble.
All right. Let's finish this out. Ladies and gentlemen, the step-in of what used to be a host.
Oh.
Mike in the overall.
All right. Well, let's get down to it. The music. 2 really great 80s themes for both of these films. And like Kyle said, I miss heroes having themed songs. Like that, it's something that doesn't happen a lot anymore. And thankfully, we only have one guy for both of these movies to have these great themes. Harold Faltermeyer actually did both Fletch and Beverly Hills Cop. He also did Top Gun and Tango and Cash, which is another great 1980s cop movie. But yeah, the synthesizer use in both of the themes is just fantastic. I love it. Like nothing says 1980s film like some synthesizer. And I'm not even going to talk about the horrible, I can't remember if Beverly Hills Cop had it, but the horrible, like, obvious theme song with lyrics written for the movie, like Fletch did.
Trying to sell soundtracks or something.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh, I kind of miss that, though. I miss when movies had dedicated songs for the films, whether they were good or bad, but the themes, the Beverly Hills Cop theme and Fletch's theme, are just fantastic. And I, of course, being someone that loves music from movies, I have those already on my playlist. And Gabe actually has it as his ringtone now when he calls me.
Yes. I was going to ask you to sing it for us. maybe at the end.
Yeah. I can do that maybe. He also did, let's see, The Running Man. I already mentioned Top Gun. There's a lot on here that a lot of people just are not going to know. Like, it seems like after the 80s, he may have had a harder time getting work, but I mean, his music's in Top Gun Maverick, and I imagine it's going to be in the new Beverly Hills Cop. So that theme is going to live on, forever, or at least until we all kill each other. But sorry, not to bring it down. But
us specifically?
Yes.
Us.
Remember, we have that suicide pact that we signed.
Yeah.
There's some suicide pact I've been left
the
out.
The death match is coming up.
Yeah.
I'd be kind of bummed and happy to be left out of a suicide pact. Like, I'd be like, well, why?
The 1000th show, we all just kill each other.
Why didn't you guys invite me? Like, I'm glad to be alive, but come on. Like, that's rude.
One thing that I didn't mention in directing, I really like the touch in Beverly Hills Cop when both of the Beverly Hills cops are trying to get up over the wall. I thought that was a great little comedic timing moment that they used, and I really enjoyed that. But honestly, and overall, my Uncle Larry, who at the time when I was a kid was older and had a lot of health problems, he loved watching, I remember this for some reason, loved watching Alf, and
who doesn't?
Loved watching Beverly Hills Cop. And so until I was older, till I was like a teenager, I had never seen Beverly Hills Cop. I'd only seen bits and pieces until I was yelled at because of the language and the violence. My parents didn't want me to watch it. And that memory is always just stuck in my head about kind of sneaking in and seeing Beverly Hills Cop. And Fletch, I actually grew up seeing, my grandmother had Fletch Lives, the second Fletch movie on VHS. So I actually watched that more than the first one, which that might be a problem for some people, but Fletch 2 kind of has a special place in my film library. But both of these films are fantastic little time capsules of what we've mentioned this whole time: the 1980s, the feel, the bearer bonds, the look of the grain, the technology, and who were stars back then, like these comedic that are now kind of comedic legends, but for us at the time they were just these comedic stars. So rewatchability for me, I will always rewatch both of these films. They're fantastic.
That's funny you said that about Fletch, because growing up, we had Beverly Hills Cop 2 on beta, but we didn't have Beverly Hills Cop.
Wow.
And so when Beverly Hills Cop came out, I was 8, and so didn't really have access to it. But Beverly Hills Cop 2, I watched 20 times, and I loved. And I think I was probably in my 20s before I finally sat down and watched the first Beverly Hills Cop movie, because Beverly Hills Cop 2, I just absolutely love. Maybe it's the Playboy Mansion, I don't know, but there's a lot in there to love. And I think the soundtrack in the second one, the soundtrack, the first one's good, but the soundtrack in the second Beverly Hills Cop movie is just balls. I love it. No, overall, I don't know. If you'd asked me this, a couple days ago, I would have said Fletch, but I feel like I might actually watch Beverly Hills Cop more going forward, because I've seen Fletch so many times that it's almost to the point where you see a funny movie so many times that you anticipate the bits and they're not even really funny anymore because you've got it so memorized. And I'm looking forward to seeing Beverly Hills Cop like the next 10 times I see it, because I've seen it. I have so much less experience with it than with Fletch. Yeah, I mean, they're both great movies. And Bit by Bit by Stephanie Mills at the end of Fletch is a fucking classic.
Oh my God, Tom. No, absolutely not.
It is amazing. And because you get to the end of Fletch and you're like, oh, I think something's missing. And he makes the joke about the American Express card. And then that song kicks in and you went, holy shit, cherry on top. Oh my God.
That's what was missing.
This is what I've been waiting for the entire time. But I have the Fletch soundtrack on vinyl, and the score is amazing. I love the score, both of them. And my kids, it's funny because my kids know Axel F. I think there's a meme or something where they play it, but they hear that and they're just like, oh, that's Axel F. And it's kind of it's even transcended the movie itself.
It has. That's true.
Yeah. Axel F. I think probably the greatest hero-specific song maybe ever.
Whoa!
Come on, it's great. Such
Indiana Jones. Do you have anything to say about this? Indiana Jones would like to have a word with you.
I'd like to have a word with Indiana Jones about his last couple of movies. He can suck it.
I crashed my plane in your backyard.
All right, come on, keep going.
Anyways, I forgot what a bop it was. It's so good, and it reminded me so much of what I missed from these 80s movies I watched as a kid. Is that like I first got HBO, I can watch Beverly Hills Cop now and stuff. But like the theme song they had made them feel like bigger than life. You know, this only plays when Axel Foley's doing Axel Foley things. It's great. And Harold Faltermeyer, I think he did a great job. I wish they wouldn't have let him touch Cop Out, because that movie sucks to begin with. But when you put Harold Faltermeyer's 45-year-old score or whatever at that point in there, it sounds like a temp track no one ever went back and replaced, and it's just distracting. It's very much of a time. But yeah, great. Axel F., one of the greatest hero-specific songs of all time. Is that better?
There you go.
Fletch, I guess I noticed that it had good music in it. Maybe it just wasn't up my wheelhouse. Axel F's kind of burned into my brain, I think. I definitely watched Beverly Hills Cop a lot more when I was a kid. And I think this is probably only the second or maybe third time I've watched Fletch in my life. I don't think I saw it till I was in my 30s. It just was, I don't know, it never appealed to me, I guess. I did enjoy it. I was really surprised at how much I enjoyed both these movies, and really shocked how kind of sincere and serious Beverly Hills Cop was at times, and how much I remember why I love Bronson Pinchot. And he is the reason we have nicknamed our new house Balky Bartaka House. It is just, I mean, yeah. Colson Larry Appleton, I mean, all the things he said. Don't be ridiculous. You know, that guy has my childhood wrapped up in him, and he's so funny in this little part. And we forgot to talk about Damon Wayans. Is that right? Yeah, Damon Wayans, who's in the movie very briefly.
We did.
Yeah,
and is playing a very problematic character in a very problematic scene for 2023. But I think
his on screen,
his shy look over his shoulder and then handing Eddie Murphy a secret bunch of bananas that he tries to like cover with his hand is fucking
absolutely hilarious.
I laughed so hard at that little choice to be like, just give a man 5 bananas and like try to cover them with your hand and be like, here, you can sneak out these bananas. Just God damn it. Oh, I laughed so hard when I saw that. And it's just his little shy look over his shoulder. Oh, great.
Do you think it's funnier now because you know who he is?
I think it would have been funny no matter what. But I think knowing it's Damon Wayans, it's like, oh, yeah, I watched Major Payne. I thought that was really funny. I like
Major Payne was hilarious.
I like Damon Wayans, but that, I don't know, man. That scene is great. It's so funny. Emmett Walsh probably has really big hands. I would not want him to be my proctologist. He just looks like a farm dude with big hands. Like, I don't want any part of that. My doctor now is a 5 foot tall, 100-pound woman, and I am so glad that she will be my doctor as I age and need prostate exams. Oh. I'm just so glad because she has tiny, tiny hands. Yeah, I think that's what you look for as you get older. You look for a doctor with small hands. the joke there somewhere.
All right, I'll move on. Yeah. What? Somehow that never crossed my mind. Watching these movies. Yeah. That was almost my avatar too.
Gabe mechanics and farmhands, Gabe.
Gabe is back going, did I say 3 fingers? You better make it 4.
Gabe visits guys with large animal husbandry degrees.
Yes. Yeah, Dr. Pole. Have you ever watched Dr. Pole?
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know who it is. I've never watched it. I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. If you had seen it, you would know what I'm talking about. Yeah, I think. Okay. The music really, really stands out in these movies to me, and it does. It's infectious. You hum it, but I have to say, I literally so I watched Fletch first, and then I watched Beverly Hills Cop. And when Beverly Hills Cop started, I'm like, is that the Fletch theme? It sounds. I literally at this moment, without going to listen to them, I'm not sure I can tell them apart.
What?
Yeah, but maybe it's just because
I'm calling shenanigans.
No, really, I don't know if I know which is which. But
you need to get the vinyl of. You need the Fletch soundtrack on vinyl. You'll never forget.
Did you get it recently? Or is this something where it's like I have to find it on on eBay and. It's like a classic that I can't buy. Can I still buy it?
I got it at a record store for like $5, maybe about 5 years ago.
Oh, okay. I'll look for it. But I literally watching them back to back. I was like, this sounds the same, and it is. They are kind of in a way, they're kind of the same. But I love them so much. They are so iconic, and I think that's maybe one of my favorite parts of these movies is the music, and it really does. It elevates what you're watching, and it goes with the character. Like it is part of that character. Is that
absolutely
music?
Yep.
And it God, it sticks in your brain. They seriously, I think I will walk around the house during the day and probably hum one of those themes. And it's like, oh man, it's really infectious, but I love it. It's great. And I still remember Fletch as one of my, I don't know. I think Chevy Chase's performance as Fletch is one of my favorites. I love it when he does the different characters. He's got the different costumes, and he's just being a total smartass. And I just love it. It's just so much fun.
It's amazing the dialogue, just the lines in Fletch, how often they come up. It might be a top 10 quotable movie. I mean, I use it all the time, and I work with. I'm actually one of the youngest people in my office, and we quote Fletch constantly. It's just it constantly comes up.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
I would say when it comes to the lead actor or the lead role having that iconic music, the very first time I can remember that growing up would be with Superman, original Christopher Reeve Superman.
Yep.
Then we mentioned Indiana Jones, so I think that was a good, I guess, way that they introduced these characters and presented them with something other than just their on-screen presence. And I agree with Kyle 100% that this is something that should come back. It is definitely missing, and I think it adds a ton to these movies and movies in general. So I really like that we've talked about that and actually pulled that out, because I think it's something that people are missing today.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, the first time I ever really noticed it was high school in radio and TV class, and we watched Once Upon a Time in the West. And each character has their own theme song, much like, the spaghetti westerns of Clint Eastwood spaghetti westerns, like The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Definitely there are 3 different themes for each character. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think they do it now, but it's not as... It's more subtle. in films. And I think what we're saying is we need a little bit more of that 80s brashness, just to kind of throw it at the audience and say, here's your theme.
It's not just the character it's not just the actor, it's the music and the actor put together makes that character.
Yes.
And I think that's the difference. Today we have actors that are characters, and the way they were portrayed then was both of those things put together made that character. And
credit to Harold Faltermeyer for I mean yes, they sound similar, but Axel F has a very cool vibe, a very Detroit vibe to it, and a very slick vibe. And there's a goofiness, I think, to the Fletch theme. That
agreed.
I think for me, I think it does a really good job of just separating the two themes and being able to, match their characters a little bit better.
Yep. All right. That is our overall. Anybody have any last minute shenanigans?
No shenanigans here.
All righty. Well, let's start it off. Mike.
Oh boy.
This is I'm just going to let you know.
I know.
This round makes or breaks these films at this point.
That's
how close we are.
I've already stated how much I enjoy both of these movies. Like, I can't wait to share them with Liam when he gets older. But
not now?
No, definitely not now. Maybe Fletch. But Beverly Hills Cop, maybe wait a couple months. I'm going to have to go with Fletch.
Okay. Tom.
I'm going to go with Fletch, but if you ask me in 6 months, that may flip. So it's close. It's close. I want to go seriously and watch Beverly Hills Cop right now. I want to watch it again one more time right now. So
it's really good.
So
it's fun. Yeah, it's really good. And the action scenes are great. But right now, in the moment, it's Fletch by a very plastic nose.
So we should have the monkey recalculate in 6 months for us.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. All right. Gabe.
I will probably be more likely to revisit Fletch. I really love Chevy Chase's performance in it. I love that character, and it makes me laugh every time. So Fletch for me.
All right. And Kyle.
Both good movies, but for me, more enjoyable and more likely to repeat Beverly Hills Cop.
All right. So, here's some really fascinating overall trivia about Fletch. Here we go. At one point, Kevin Smith had written an actual script for the prequel to the film, with Jason Lee playing Fletch. However, Miramax producer Harvey Weinstein, we all love him so much, wouldn't let him, citing that Jason Lee's lack of box office appeal. So Kevin Smith considered directing Ghost of Girlfriend's Past for Disney in 2003 at the request of Ben Affleck, because Ben Affleck wanted him to direct. Well, that didn't sit well with Weinstein, so he allowed Smith to go ahead and make his Fletch prequel instead, as long as he got Ben Affleck to star as Fletch. So Fletch 1, W-O-N, briefly went into production, but was canceled when Affleck basically decided to stay with Disney and not do the film. Fletch 1 actually ended up with Warner Brothers, but has remained in development hell ever since.
I'll be damned.
So, Beverly Hills Cop. The Beverly Hills police would not allow them to have access to the headquarters. So Martin Brest and his staff built a set that would look exactly the opposite of the Detroit Police Department, like private security for all rich people. The set was actually influenced by Brest's Michael are Martin Brest's original conceptual designs that he did for NORAD in War Games in 1983. And he recycled most of his unused work because he felt he spent too much time on it and it never got used.
I'll be damned.
Interesting.
Yeah. It's kind of neat. Kind of fun stuff there. Cool. All right, kids. Well, let's talk to the users and tell them some fun things that have happened throughout the world. And what are you watching? What are you digging on? What do you want to do? What do you want people to watch? What? Gabe.
Wow. Yeah, I'm gonna suggest another movie with a Harold Faltermeyer soundtrack to it. And it's one everyone knows, and many of us has probably seen. But I think we should revisit Top Gun, because it was actually a little bit surprising to me to find that he did the soundtrack for Top Gun, and I believe it was Kyle recommended Top Gun Maverick previously, and Harold Faltermeyer's music appears in that as well as a nice kind of throwback to it. So I think we ought to go and watch Top Gun again, watch some, latently homosexual volleyball and some, fantastic aerial fight scenes. Is that
that's XLF?
Is that Fletch or I can't tell the difference.
Oh,
that was Top Gun.
Oh my god! Oh my god! I'm gonna take the opening of Top Gun and put like the Fletch theme underneath it. I want to see how that looks.
Put all three of them together, please.
See how they match up.
All right. Kyle.
So, as the keeper of the recommendations, I'd just like to point out Top Gun Maverick was recommended before Top Gun ever was, which I think is pretty funny. Yeah, I'm going to recommend a movie I just rewatched with my wife, and boy, it couldn't be any more opposite than Beverly Hills Cop or Fletch, other than it involves it's like a police procedural in some way, and that is a movie by Denis Villeneuve. I don't know how to say his name, which is unfortunate. I should have studied that because he's one of my favorite modern directors. So he can at me if he wants, and I will apologize. But he's done a ton of really good movies. But he did a movie, a very dark movie called Prisoners, that starred Jake Gyllenhaal, and Terrence Howard was in it. Hugh Jackman is in it. Paul Dano is in it. Like, the cast is really excellent. I want to say it might have been Melissa Leo, but I'm not 100% sure of that. But it is a very heart-wrenching and but also very interesting and good story and film. And if you can handle the subject matter, it is absolutely worth a watch. It reminds me almost of a David Fincher film. It's very dark and very gritty, and I think Gyllenhaal and Jackman both give amazing performances. So it's worth watching just for that. But yeah, Prisoners, check it out. Nothing like these movies. So
good choice.
Ready.
That's a great movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what's the theme song to that?
To Prisoners? I think it's just a child crying.
Dun 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 dun.
Yeah, it might. I think it sounds like the A-Team a bit. It's like dun 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 dun. We're prisoners. Dun, 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 dun. Someone took my kid. Bum, ba, bum. It's something like that.
There goes that copyright strike. All right, Tom.
All right, so Kyle, you need to get out your green highlighter for this master of recommendations. But I've recommended this one before, but I can't not recommend it for today. I'm going to recommend Beverly Hills Cop 3. No, I'm sorry. I'm going to recommend Confess Fletch, which is the well, we'll call it the reboot of the Fletch franchise with John Hamm. It came out last year before. It's really funny. It stays more true to the novels, and it's really a great crime movie. It's really kind of disappointing the public backlash that it got for people thinking that they were replacing Chevy Chase, and that, you know, look, if we want these movies to continue, we have to give them to other actors. Chevy Chase isn't going to do these movies anymore, so let's see what someone else can do with it. And it's got a little bit darker tone, but it's still, John Hamm is a very, very funny actor, and he sticks the landing on it. So I know that Mottola is working on another script that he wants to direct with John Hamm, and John Hamm said he's in. So we're hoping, please, maybe if the next 3 people watch this, we'll get enough viewers that we can get the sequel and get another Fletch movie, because it's well worth the watch. It's a good mystery.
It's very, very good. I will second your recommendation. Not that you need it, but
thank you. No, that's good. We need seconds and thirds. So please go ahead.
All right, and Mike.
All right. Well, I'm going to recommend an Eddie Murphy movie, and actually his first movie, directed by Walter Hill. He stars next to Nick Nolte, and Annette O'Toole is in it, and I cannot remember. Oh, Frank McRae plays another great chief type character, and it's 48 Hours. And it is absolutely hilarious. I really love that movie. It's the comedy between the two of them is great. And if you want to go back to the 80s again, watch Eddie's first movie, watch 48 Hours, and then watch another 48 Hours, which is also good. But
I was just going to ask, is there another 48 Hours?
Yes. But definitely recommend 48 Hours.
All right. So my recommendation is going to be another comedic cop and detective movie with a little bit different of a comedian than Eddie Murphy, and that is going to actually star Melissa McCarthy, and she plays most of this movie with her co-stars, which are all puppets, and that is the Happy Time Murders. And if you've never seen it, it is an outrageous, over-the-top, crazy, really funny cop detective comedy where Melissa McCarthy and the rest of the people live in a world where humans and puppets coexist at the same time. And it's pretty funny. So that would be mine. So there we go.
It's also very R-rated. I saw that in the theater.
It's very R-rated. You are correct. It's not for kids. It's not.
No, don't take your kids because there's puppets in it.
Yeah, that's not a puppet kid movie.
The Henson family was not amused.
No.
Stay in your lane. You own the Muppets, not all puppets.
Hey, if you put your hand in it, they own you.
Wow.
Wait.
They have a huge stake in pornography.
I got to go talk to my wife.
Different movie. Podcast. Wow.
I'm looking at you, R. Emmett Walsh.
Is it hot?
Oh, Jesus. That guy's hand's been a lot of places. He's old.
He has his hands in a lot of pies.
Yeah.
Hey.
Dirt pies.
Hey, that 18 plus rating did go through on Twitch, right?
It did.
Right.
It did.
Okay,
so.
all right, good deal.
Yeah.
Nope, we're getting banned. I can see all the mods flooding in.
Totally banned. As of
Just
now.
like To Kill a Mockingbird.
All right. Well, the monkey has tapped me on the shoulder and told me what they attempted to calculate. I think they did it right, but I'll double check. So, without further ado, we have...
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? Your winner by decision is Fletch!
9-7.
It don't get any closer.
So
Yeah, that's
in the overall, when you guys were voting, we were tied. We were actually 6-6. That's why I said the overall actually pushed us over the limit.
Wow.
Yeah. So we were pretty even throughout the entire thing up until overall. So overall pushed us over.
And I mean, I think that speaks volumes for both of these films, just how much
100%.
fun we had watching them and how much of a fun watch they are if you have not seen them. And I don't know how you haven't seen them, but if you haven't, you need to watch them and maybe go back and revisit it, both of them again, because you'll have a blast.
Agreed. All right. Well, that's going to wrap us up. So please leave us a review on whatever podcasting service you have or use. It helps us reach new listeners. And if you like us, tell your friends. And if you hate us, tell everybody. Go ahead and contact us at cinesmack@gmail.com. You can see there all of our contacts. So you can follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Just search for Cinesmack. And as we do now, you want to listen to an unedited, crazy, over-the-top, all the mistakes, all the crazy talk behind the scenes that you don't get in the original podcast. Make sure you come back to Twitch whenever we record an episode so you can watch us live. All right, for February, we drop the blocks on our handheld fruit to see who can outlast the pressure. It's Tetris versus Blackberry. All right, so for Kyle, Gabe, Tom, Mike, and myself, we thank you for listening, and we ask that you go catch a flick.
Give each other $20, okay? Put it on Underhill.
Ah, muchas gracias.
Sierra del Fuego.
How did they never made a Spanish language? Nope, I had the joke and it's gone. Oh, how did they never make a Spanish language update? Tequila Mockingbird.
Oh.
It was worth it, right? It was worth it, guys. It's
There's
worth
a bar out
after
there.
The credits.
There's a bar out there, I bet, called Tequila Mockingbird.
Oh my God! If there's not copyright, Kyle, fine.
That was a really fun episode. But Mike, I think at the end we need a cherry on top. And I'm just spitballing here, but maybe Bit by Bit by Stephanie Mills.
Oh dear God!
Maybe.
No, please.
As we
Do
go
you
to credits,
own her publishing
Are we
rights or
allowed?
something?
I bought the song yesterday. It was like $3.50.
God, you paid $3.50
You may
for
you
that?
may own the master. You may own the master.
Yeah.
At that point.
Yeah, you bought the rights to the song. It sounds
This has been a test of the Southsider Studios podcast system. This was only a test. If this were a true lack of entertainment, your head would explode. Go to iTunes and subscribe to our feed. Just search Southsider Studios.
Every day when you log into ChumbaCasino.com, the ultimate online social casino, you get a free daily bonus. Imagine if you got daily bonuses in other parts of your life.
I chose French fries over loaded French fries.
I asked Stuart from accounting about his weekend, even though I don't care.
I updated my operating system without having to call tech support.
Collect your free daily bonus at ChumbaCasino.com now. And live the Chumba life. VGW Group. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.